The recent events of Commander Masters has raised the question, just how fast should Wizards of the Coast be reprinting products, and at what price point do they choose to price those products at? There is an ugly side to what will happen if they continue down this chosen path, and the funny thing is, they've been on this path before. Commander Masters has opened a Pandora's box of questions, and most of them are very self-destructive toward Wizards of the Coast. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on my channel today. Now, it's kind of an important topic to think about because for some people, this may feel like we've done this before. A little bit of deja vu, Matrix style stuff, and for others who haven't been around the game a long time, this may be completely new. But Wizards of the Coast has been speeding up everything. We all know that. They're just racing along trying to get as much money as they can. And in that quest to get money, they've of course added a lot of reprint products to the market. And when those reprint products come along, Wizards of the Coast is officially or unofficially looking at the secondary market. And they're saying, how much are those cards, these cards, those cards, commons, uncommons, rares, mythics, bulk, chaff, super ultra rare players want? How do they all fit together? And they probably have a whole team of misfit toys together making this all happen, and they give us a reprint set. All right, when that reprint set comes out, they've kind of finalized things into a certain track printing to give you an equated value of somewhere really good, okay, really bad. It happens, right? It is a form of semi-gambling. It's a great card game. Always bring a friend to Magic, but that's how it is for a lot of players, which is why we always joke and say get singles. So when you go ahead and players now get the singles and they're picking the cards up and reprint sets come along. In the old days when they gave us Chronicles, they didn't hike up the price. Chronicles was like $2.85 Canadian for a 12 card pack, okay? And there was 45 packs in a box. Back then Wizards was actually just trying to get more cards that were now out of print into the hands of players. We need to get more cards out there so players can enjoy it and expand the game. What a novel concept. They didn't overcharge. They just printed a lot of cards to make players happy. But in doing so, they angered a lot of players, and then, we have the first reserve list because of that. That's how it went down. Chronicles being the first reprint of stuff like, from the Dark, Legends, Antiquities. Guys, it was crazy because I was around that whole time and I thought nothing of it at the time. I was just happy to open more cards, okay? But that's how that first reserve list came around. If Wizards didn't put that reserve list in place and didn't guarantee some value, the game would have ended right there. We wouldn't have had more expansions. The player base would have abandoned ship. That's how it looked at the time. Okay, for a player who's been there, that's how it looked. I was there. But now we fast forward 30 years, and Wizards of the Coast is no longer saying, let's get more cards into the hands of players. They're not reprinting things like a reprint master set, let's say Commander Masters, like this background here, Commander Masters. And they didn't charge you $500. Imagine they made it $150. $150 Canadian a box. So that's $102 to $105 American. Imagine how different this game would be if the values crashed down that low. If cards were just accessible to everyone. So Wizards has done the opposite. They've tried to take the profits for themselves, keep the cards at a kind of higher price point, right? They're still difficult to get because nobody's going to pay $500 to open a box of Commander Masters set and draft. That's just how it is. And you look at that and you say, okay, so now Wizards being greedy, they're taking the cash. They're taking the money. And then players are angry again because it's too expensive. There's not enough value in there to make them want to get it. So now that value is too expensive and they can't get it, what do? What do players do? Well, they go and proxy the cards. They write the title of the card, and that's their card. They no longer care. Hey, Wizards, do you know what happens when players don't care about your game anymore? They just play it because they want to play it. They love playing the game, but they're not going to play your game. They're not going to chase your value down. Wizards of the Coast is playing a very dangerous game of cat and mouse. They are trying to chase down the values in the sets. They're trying to guarantee themselves a certain amount of revenue from every reprint instead of just putting it in the hands of players and making the game truly accessible and actually get value by growing the game, which is what they did back in the day. Chronicles grew the game. It expanded out the player base of players who had accessibility to cards. Now, I personally believe the cards should have value. So there has to be some kind of equilibrium and some kind of balance to how they reprint cards. I think some kind of, system has to be put in place. I don't know what the system is. I'm not the genius in the background. I could probably give you 50 ideas, and guess what? Most of you on this channel could probably give me better ideas than I could come up with. But I need a system in place to have some kind of value and some kind of reprint time schedule. Because without that, what Wizards is doing now is jacking up prices, making the cards inaccessible to players who can't afford to pay $30, $40 for one pack of a Commander Masters product. At least that's it here in Canada. You look at that and you say, okay, so if they're not buying our packs and it's sitting on the store shelf, which hurt the LGSs, really upset distributors, and there's some kind of negotiation going on there between stores and the distributor now to slowly eke the product out. With all that going on and all that anger and frustration, some players just turned away, went to some third-party site, print off the proxies, have them sent over because they have no intention of going to a tournament. They have no intention of playing a professional round of Magic because they don't see the point anymore. Wizards of the Coast went from being a creator of a game who issued a box of Magic cards with playable cards and staying out of the secondary market to now being the manipulators of the secondary market to create the reprint products which they issue back to the players at a new inflated price instead of allowing the secondary market to do what the secondary market does. This is where Wizards of the Coast has left themselves in this cat and mouse game which they can't win. Every time they upset the players this way, they turn more players away. By trying to capitalize all the secondary market value back to the original company, and yes, they created the game, but by doing what they've done, they're just turning more players away than they're gaining. They are doing an ever-shrinking pool. This is what led to the first creation of the reserve list, and it could go back to that again with dwindling returns because players don't believe the cards have value. And if the cards have no value, why not just spend $100 and proxy every possible card that you could ever have wanted? Why not just go to a third-party site and get every card you've always wanted for pennies on the dollar because now you don't believe the secondary market has any value. And when that happens, it's just another card game. It's just like playing euchre or Jim Rummy. You can just have thousands of cards created, hundreds of decks made, and that's what some players are doing. They are fed up with what Wizards of the Coast has done. And yes, there are always going to be die-hard, hardcore fans like myself who continue to buy reserve list cards, buy individual cards, and just love the game for what it is and put up with Wizards of the Coast no matter how frustrated and angry we get. We haven't hit that wall yet. That cat and mouse game for us is still an ongoing thing. But players are turning away. Wizards of the Coast is having a very adverse effect with what they did with Commander Masters. It's not over. And of course, originally I had a background here of the 30th anniversary stuff because that also irked players. But for that one, Wizards of the Coast made even a bigger faux pas. They just priced it entirely wrong. They had a chance to capitalize on a 30th anniversary that people would have remembered, and they messed it up for a lot of us, okay? Not everyone, but a lot of us. And for those players out there who say, oh, the 30th anniversary cards are worth so much money. Yeah, because nobody bought them. Nobody cared at that price point. And whoever's buying them now, it's a very niche market of players who enjoy collecting that kind of stuff. They're welcome to it. Just like players right now who look at the reprints of cards like Ragavan, who, yes, Ragavan's an amazing card, until Wizards A, bans it, B, reprints it into oblivion because they created a newer card that's more powerful. Cat and mouse. Ever changing, but always the same. Deja vu over and over again. So I'm really hoping that Wizards of the Coast comes up with some kind of strategy after seeing what happened here with Commander Masters, because this is ridiculous for a lot of us to look at and go, I can't believe they thought they could get away with that. I can't believe they thought that was going to work. Because it really didn't. Players have a wall. They either have it mentally, they have it physically. There is a price point everyone can and cannot accept, and everyone's different. And if Wizards of the Coast really wanted to grow this game, they would put a reprint set out once a year. One reprint set. They would have it engineered to be a certain amount of cards. Certain cards that are really needed to be reprinted. And yes, since they already own the cards, there's not a lot of effort involved. I'm not saying new artwork. I'm talking total generic rehash of the card. If everyone needs another Ragavan, just put the regular Ragavan in there, reprint the card because you own it, and make that box $150. Just make it 20% higher than regular of whatever a standard box is now, and leave it there to grow the game, to let players enjoy the game they've created. But by keeping those cards accessible, they will actually entice more players to join the game, knowing that that secondary market value could grow higher. That some of these cards could continue to be powerful, conceptual cards of art and design that players seek out and invest in. And by investing, I'm not saying, millions of dollars, but knowing your deck has value and knowing you got lucky hitting a big card like a serialized card, but not having it manipulated by Wizards of the Coast, by making it a $500 box and you get a card that's $80 and you think you've hit it big, but opening the good old days of opening a box of World Wake and getting a $50 Jace the Mind Sculptor back then. That was a truly epic thing. Or Avacyn Restored, when you opened Avacyn Angel of Hope. Those $50, $60 hits back in those yesteryear years were amazing. Wizards has got to step back for a minute and rehash what they're doing to allow players to have the accessibility by not overcharging for products. Look back to 2013 when it was like $220 Canadian for Modern Masters. It was an affordable product that, it was still a higher price point, but players were willing to pay that price. Wizards of the Coast has gone far beyond that with their inflationary measures and predatory pricing for players. They need to step back and just sit on the sidelines, because the box they've opened, they're not going to like the end result years from now. The damage they're doing to their brand is an ongoing issue for players, and products like Commander Masters just remind the players how badly Wizards of the Coast is managing this IP and this game that we all love. So guys, I don't know what the answer is. Slam some comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think Wizards of the Coast could do better. Would you like to see a schedule for reprints? I asked this question in a polling thing to see what players would say. Most of you guys want like an MSRP so you kind of know where the prices should be. I would love to see that stuff come back. Even though I don't think it solves the problem, it would be a step in the right direction. But I want to know what you guys think. Put some comments down in the comment section. And of course, I look forward to seeing you guys each and every day. So thanks again for hanging out. And remember, if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notification bells as I upload daily content. All right, guys, thanks again for hanging out. And don't forget, bring a friend to Magic. It's an awesome game. Thanks again to everyone for stopping by. And as we go by the credits, you'll see these are all the amazing Patreon supporters I have, my YouTube membership members. Without these people supporting the channel, daily uploaded content, it's just not possible. So thanks again to each and every one of them. They are fantastic. Welcome back to the secret headquarters, the Ramble Jamble. You know what I'd like to see right now? New reserve list! Yeah! Welcome back, guys. Wouldn't you love that? It'd be crazy to see if Wizards gets forced into a corner where they have to guarantee secondary value by putting cards back on a reserve list. It could happen. I know players don't think it could. Like, there's no possible way. Sure it is. If they lose too much value. The game was small back then when the reserve list was created. But it could happen if enough players mass revolted. If all of a sudden products just didn't get bought. If it was such a big boycott that nothing moved at all. Can you imagine that? The worldwide effort it would take. But imagine that moment, Wizards goes, what do you mean nothing sold? Oh, we sold like 100 boxes across the whole country. What? Like, something would have to happen, right? So I'm curious to how that would look. We've always joked, and I've always said I'm fine if they reprint the reserve list in different art frames and stuff. But in this case, where it's reprinting too often, they've got to do either a schedule or they got to do something to guarantee some kind of secondary market value that they can't have access to, so players truly believe that the game is worth something. Because if not, it's just a card game. And if it's just a card game, that's why players proxy. I'll be curious to see. I mean, the next 20 years of this game is going to be so fascinating. We're going to be discussing this for a long time, so it's all good, but crazy stuff. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. I'll be honest, the coffee ran out. It's empty, you can see. Makes me sad. Hulk smash makes me I need more coffee. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on the live stream, 6:30 tonight Eastern Standard Time.